Now, when I was looking at yesterday's video, I was noticing that I did not get all of the blue tack off of this plane here. And right, let's see here if I can point it out to you, like right here, is that blue tack or is that, anyway, it's not too important. I noticed down in here in the cockpit there's a little bit. At least I think that's blue tack. No, it isn't. That's actually plastic I'm looking at. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that. Another problem is I've got some dust on these things here, and okay, I think I got that piece of dust. Because what will happen is if I don't remove that, I don't know if you can see it or not. I can see it. A little piece of dust on the end of that blue tack on the toothpick. What happens is that the paint will, well, I guess you know that once it gets painted onto the surface, it's almost impossible to get off. I have a bad habit of forgetting to dust off these parts before I actually paint, and I should remember to do that every single time. Now, in the comments that I got, somebody made the comment that this blue tack is sort of like double-sided tape. The harder you press it down on something, the more it's going to stick. And I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then I thought, hey, wait a minute. The blue tack did not stick to the to glass, like you know, to the bottom of something like this. So why is it sticking to the paint then? And then I thought, well, the paint is porous. And I thought, you know what? Why don't we stick on the super macro, and we'll try and find a place, like maybe some place that I haven't touched, like maybe the underside of the stabilizer or something like that right here. And we'll just sort of zoom in really close, and we'll have a look at that surface, and I should be able to, it'll make perfect sense to us why the blue tack sticks to the paint, but not to the surface of the glass. Anyway, let's get at it here. Now my thinking is that on the underside of the wing, right there, I likely have not touched, right there close to the where the struts fasten onto the wing. And the reason that I do not want to be imaging onto a place that I have touched is because where I have touched it, I will have tended to, you might say, polish the paint. In other words, knock the little bumps or whatever off, so it's not as pristine as, well, anyway, you know what I mean. You folks have seen me use what I'm calling my super macro, and you might be a camera buff and you're thinking to yourself, you know, I'd really like to have a lens like that. And you get one and you're disappointed. The reason you're going to be disappointed is because you have to realize that the depth of field is almost non-existent. It would be even a millimeter's difference in or out will blur the image. It is extremely sharp on whatever it happens to be focused on. But anything in front of or behind of that is blurred. Now, right now I'm opened out at 2.8. I'll probably stop her down to about 5.6 here. After I'm convinced that I've got it focused more or less, say, in the center of the image, as good as I can get it here. Oh, and another thing, that the way you focus this is you either move the subject closer or further away, or you, in this case, I'm sliding the camera on this homemade base thing here. So Okay, I would say that those little white marks that are probably pieces of dust or something that I didn't brush off. Anyway, I think they're about as sharp as I can get them. And I'm going to stop it down now to F8. Okay, that will give me a slight better depth of field. In other words, in the bottom of those cracks that you see, they'll be a little sharper than otherwise. Now, if I was to go in any more, yes, it might be depth of field might be better, but the sharpness will have been lost. So anyway, notice how rough that paint is. And what's happening is the blue tack, you're pushing the blob of blue tack down onto a bunch of little things that are going to grab into it and hold on to it. Whereas when you put the blue tack on a piece of glass, there's nothing to grab onto. Even if the glass doesn't have any fingerprints or oil or anything like that on it, there's just nothing there for it to grab onto, so it all pulls away. Yeah, I like to think things through. It sort of got me into trouble, and when you think things through. I've lost friends because I've thought things through. Okay, we have that bump there, right more or less in the middle of the screen. And what I'm going to try to do is focus on the paint on the flat surface around the bump. Now you will have noticed in the earlier shot that there was a sort of a spotlight that I did not have turned on. Well, I'm going to turn that on now, and my hope is that the light will cast a shadow on the bumps. Here we go. And it'll sort of enhance them a little bit. I don't know if it's making it better or worse. Now let's stop the lens down so we get a little better depth of field. Okay, there we are, F8. I got it about as good as I can possibly get it without using a super expensive microscope that you can attach a camera to. And I'm not about to do that. Anyway, notice how bumpy the paint is. Yeah. Okay, we've wasted enough time here. Please do not misunderstand when I was talking about this lens. It's a great lens. I have no buyer's remorse whatsoever. What I was trying to say is, it's not for a beginner. It's a great lens. Just a bit of an update here. One of the viewers was saying, weren't you going to paint the bottom of the wings blue? Well, this is the only one that I'm going to paint the bottom of the wings blue on, because all the others, like these other planes, you're going to be, I imagine Tony's going to be painting his, but these ones here, I'm not going to paint the bottom because you're going to be looking sort of down on them, whereas this one here, it'll be sticking out of the hanger a little bit, and if you look in the front of the hanger door at a bit of an angle, you will be able to see the bottom of the wing. So this one here I will probably paint, I imagine light gray. That's going to be good enough. I know it's not going to be exactly right, but it's going to be good enough. I don't have light blue. And I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the blue tack again and stick the blue tack on here. Well, you'll see what I'm going to do, because I don't care if I get blue tack on the bottom of the floats. Again, they're not going to be seen, ever. Okay, now, how do I push these down into the blue tack without putting any stress on the strut connections? You don't want to be pressing down on the top of the wings very hard, because all of a sudden you're going to hear a snap. Don't want it to blow off either. Maybe that's good enough. I think that should be okay. Okay, let's go down in the workshop and plug my air hose back in. I'm not painting, I'm just blowing the dust off. I've already shaken this up in the mixer, probably 10-15 minutes ago, so I know that if there's any sediment in the bottom from overnight, it's remixed. And this shouldn't take very long, and it shouldn't take very much either. And this time I remembered to get the hot water. Probably get another usage out of that pipette. And my pressure's still at about a little over 20. Okay, now we've already painted around the canopy area, except for maybe just in behind the canopy there. So it's basically the top of the wings, the floats, and the fuselage. And in other words, I don't have to do anywhere underneath, and I don't need to worry about the canopy. Well, it looks good to me. Maybe after it dries I'll see where it's maybe not as good as it could be, but it actually looks pretty good. Okay, you've seen me pour paint back before. Now, because I have a tendency to talk to myself so much, I don't know if I've mentioned this to the viewers or not, or if I've maybe just told myself this, and that is that since I've started using this airbrush at a much higher pressure, like 20-25 pounds, it's worked well, I may as well say every time. Whereas before, when I was having all that trouble, it seems to me that I was trying to use it at a very low pressure, like 10-12 pounds. And my thinking at that time was that if I was using it at a low pressure, the velocity coming out of the nozzle would be less, and it would have a tendency to not blow away the little part that I was trying to paint. At least I think that's what I was thinking. Anyway, this particular one, the HPCS, it seems to, like I say, it works really good at a high pressure. And it seems to me, Tony mentioned that too, that he'd heard that with this particular brush. So yeah, if you happen to have this one here, and I really like it. It's the only one I've got, so I can't compare it to anything. I can't say it's really, really good or really, really bad. All I know is it's working great now. Well, let's have a little look at them. They're not perfectly dry yet. Probably about 15 minutes since I painted the last one, maybe 20 because I did clean out the airbrush. Alright, half an hour. Now, tomorrow, after this paint is completely dry, I want to see if I can get in there around the cylinders and paint that area black. And I'm thinking that if I do get some black paint on the front of the cowling, it'll be easy to repaint the front of the cowling. At least that's my thinking. Yeah, that's the plan anyway. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and all being well, we'll see you tomorrow.